The METUS Tech Show.
Welcome to the METUS Tech Show, a show for HVAC professionals by HVAC professionals.
I like how you guys bounce back and forth between heat pump talk and food talk.
The METUS Tech Show.
Mitsubishi.
Hey, Mark, thanks again for joining us. You were one of the first guests, maybe not the first, but I think you're on episode 5.
Yes.
And we're having you on one last time because you are our outgoing, I guess you're out the door actually now.
I am.
You're outgoing CEO.
It's good to sneak back in for a day or two.
Yeah, well, we're glad to have you. So when last we spoke, you were planning to retire, and I think barbecue, you got a smoker.
I do, a Rectex smoker.
A Rectex smoker, and Juan has one too.
I do. I love it.
Yeah.
Did you know that's a Georgia-built
Yes,
piece
it
of
is.
equipment?
It's
Yeah.
Georgia boys.
They do an
doing
annual celebration down there. and
They do. Have you
invite
been to
their
one?
Customers. I got to get to that. That's
Yeah.
a
It
retirement
would be awesome.
must-have.
I wish I could.
As our outgoing CEO, we got you a METUS Tech Show apron so you can wear when you're barbecuing.
Fantastic.
Embroidered.
Embroidered.
I like the dark color, too. It won't
Yes.
show stains.
Yeah.
There's only
Exactly.
6 of them in existence, and you get one.
Awesome.
And since you're no longer the CEO, this is obviously not a kiss-up move or anything like that.
No bribery here.
Now, we have one for Andy, too, and that's strictly 100% kiss-up move. So we're gonna.
Save it for when he retires.
That's true.
From one kiss up to another.
Yeah. So let's talk about some of the barbecuing you're going to do with your new apron. What are your plans? Anything you haven't done before, or what's your favorite thing?
My favorite thing is still pizza. I think I talked about that
Yeah.
before. The Rectech is unique in that you can get it up to 750, 800 degrees.
Yes.
And at that temperature, you got a pizza done in about 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Now, are you doing it on the grill or are you doing it on a stone?
I actually go ahead and put it on an aluminum perforated pizza pan. So you get
Okay.
the heat coming up
Gotcha.
through the
Oh, yeah.
perforations.
I
You
love
get that
it.
nice crisp, and it just is fantastic. The real downside is I've already prepared a space for an actual pizza oven on my patio,
Oh, wow.
and now I have absolutely no justification for putting a
you don't
pizza.
need
You can't beat the Rectex.
I got to think of something else to set in this big
what,
gap.
What about like breads and stuff? I was
was
thinking
just gonna say that.
like a brick oven, but I guess the Rectech would do that as well, wouldn't it?
They can.
Yeah.
Rectex can do many things.
It does it all.
Juan, you're doing beef jerky, you said?
I do. I buy some roast and I slice it. My first round, I cut the meat too thin, so it just about disappeared. It was just a slow process. It's done at 250 for 3 to 5 hours, depending on how thick the meat is. So now I'm learning to get it cut properly on the thickness.
What are you marinating it with?
Several things. I love my garlic, lemon, or lime marinade. I've done some with teriyaki sauce.
Okay.
I've done some with Italian dressing. I like that tartness to the taste of that meat.
No, we've talked about Cubanos on
Yes.
past episodes, and
Oh,
you're
yeah.
like the master of
Cuban sandwiches.
doing the Cuban pork roast or pork
Yes.
shoulder. So you're going to marinate in that in the citrus and the lime.
overnight. The longer the better.
And have you done one on the Rectech?
Oh yes.
Okay.
Early on, I had a 5-pounder, a 5-pound shoulder
Nice.
that I slit. I literally stabbed it because I wanted to peel some fresh garlic, and I shoved it inside each poke and just let it marinate with garlic and lime juice, oregano, cilantro, just spices. And I did that for a 24 to a 30-hour period,
Wow.
marinated it. And I cooked it for 12 hours on the Rectech.
Is this thing pellets?
Yes.
So it must
It is
auto
a
feed.
pellet grill.
It just
It does.
auto feeds. So you have to-
Oh, yeah.
Is an app that goes with it too, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
How I monitor the temperature of the meat and so forth.
Is it set it and forget it, or do you have to go out there?
No, they don't recommend because I wish you could turn it on off-site, but you have to manually turn it on because of the safety aspect of it.
Oh, so you're turning it on again and again.
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah.
All right. So pizza. You don't live too far from Atlanta. We could arrange to do a show from your house next time you're cooking a dozen pizzas.
Always welcome.
I'll bring the ingredients.
I'll need you to. I just experimented with the Detroit style pizza, which I actually got the pans for, which apparently was what they used to carry the nuts and bolts around in. That's where the Detroit pizza pan
That's
came
awesome.
from.
Wow.
But I had to go to Wisconsin to get the brick cheese. Brick cheese is a critical element in a true
Yes.
Detroit pizza.
Wow.
And they don't sell it in the South. So I got some from Wisconsin, and it was fabulous. You get
Brick
the
cheese. I
the
gotta
brick
remember that.
cheese, the oil comes out and it gets underneath and it sizzles the crust.
The crust.
You're
Ooh,
dedicated.
That sounds
You're
good.
going all out.
Absolutely.
See, I didn't know that. I honestly, I think it was within the last year, maybe year and a half, that I discovered the Detroit style pizza. I don't. If I've had one, I don't recall, but it's delicious. It's quickly becoming my favorite.
Yeah. Well,
Okay.
it's not easy to make.
No, I wouldn't think so because it looks complicated.
So since you're using it on a perforated pan, do you think it'll be the same effect on a like a cookie rack?
Well, for the Detroit pizza, I'm using the non-perforated.
Okay.
It's like
Because
a big
you want to block in your oils.
Right. Yeah.
Gotcha.
So the perforated's for the more traditional.
Okay.
Right. Yeah. There's nothing like crust, like especially when those pans, they use them over and over and they start getting
Yes.
seasoned
The flavor.
and it just gets better and
The
better.
older the better.
Bar style pizzas are like that. And they use the same pan and it's burnt and everything else. And it's all that flavors in there and the crust gets, it's fantastic.
I might have to get one of these. You know,
Well, you've got a good one. You've got a flat top.
I've got the flat top, but I've tried a pizza on it, and
It's not the same.
you know, it's an upside down pizza.
You need the heat.
So I put the cheese and the pepperoni and all the ingredients down onto the flat top, and then you take the dough, which you kind of par bake on the flat top separately, and you flip it upside down, and then you try to flip the whole thing over.
That's got to be tricky.
It was a mess. It was a mess. I mean, I ate it, but it was like, I'm not doing that again. It's the flat top is not for pizza, and
No.
to put the dome on it is not enough. Everything gets soggy. So
Right.
yeah, the
It's
flat
great
top-
for stir fries, though.
It's excellent for stir fry and for breakfast. Saturday mornings at my house, it's like a Denny's. It's
that
like
would be awesome.
I got the hash browns going. I got the bacon. I got the sausages. I got eggs, different kinds, and I bought the rings.
There you go.
You know, so I just make the omelets. I flip them over to order, and I do it just like Denny's. I get the little dishes of all the little. You know, he has one with onions, one with peppers, one
Right.
with ham, one with bacon, one with different
Individual
cheeses.
dishes.
Right.
And for my wife, I got the spinach. She's the only one that'll put spinach in her eggs.
Well, that's good.
Not really.
That's no fun for Paul.
Yeah, no.
Sounds like you developed some really good standard work for your process.
I did. I have. I got the different spatulas depending on what I'm doing.
Color-coded.
Yeah. Pancakes was the thing. I think I was like, wow, because the old way of making pancakes was in one pan, one frying pan, one pancake at a time. Who's next? One of my oldest, one of my youngest, one for my wife, and again for myself, and then oldest one's a second, and the thumb. So, but on the griddle, I think I made 14 or 16 pancakes all at once. Just get the batter down there, and boom, and they're done. 10 minutes, I'm done cooking breakfast. Everybody's eating.
So do you make your own mix or do you buy it?
I make it from
pre-mixed?
scratch. Yeah, no,
You
I
do?
make it from scratch. Yeah, I get a recipe, little bit of cornmeal.
I
in my
have bought
pancakes.
already mixed from Costco, and that's pretty good.
Yeah. I don't go to Costco. I don't have a Costco. And the nearest one's 40 minutes away. That's too far for me to drive to save money.
Okay.
Not really. All right. So, Mark, as I said, you're on one of our first episodes, and you talked about at one point in your career early on, you were actually in crawl spaces in California running ductwork. Can you tell us a little bit about your early career in HVAC?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. It was what made me the man I am today. I was an engineering student, Cal Poly, and you had to get a co-op. That was 6 months out on a real-world job site. And I'm looking through all of the possibilities, and I see Atlas Furnace Company. I loved heat exchange. That was my favorite class, and I thought, Atlas Furnace Company, I can build furnaces. That sounds awesome. So I signed up. They immediately hired me. I go up to, this is in Silicon Valley, and it turns out at one point in their history, they had actually built furnaces. Now they were pretty much a basic Linux dealer. And they set me up in a little cube on week one, and the boss said, here's the ASHRAE fundamentals, read it. So, okay, I can do that. That seems kind of engineering oriented. Week 2, he says, you know what? Our helper didn't show up today. We need you on one of the crews. And for the next several months, I was the guy in the attics and under the houses. For one thing, I was the lowest on the totem pole, and I was also the smallest, so I could fit the best. But after a while, I noticed there was a sheet metal guy who never had to lie down. He was always vertical. And I thought, if I could help him, I could get out of this deal. I said, I will be your helper. What do you say? Talk to the boss. If you need a helper, I'm your man. He trained me every aspect of sheet metal.
Wow.
The patterns, the forming, the cutting.
Right.
And it kept me out of the attics and crawl spaces for the last 2 months of my experience. And I got back to Cal Poly. First thing I see on the job board is needed sheet metal shop supervisor. I worked the rest of my way through college making sheet metal parts for Rekirk Construction in San Luis Obispo.
Well, that's awesome, Mark.
Oh, San Luis Obispo is nice, but I don't want to get off track.
Yeah, it's an art. Being
It
a
is.
sheet metal fabricator.
It is an art.
You know, it's funny. I was teaching a class a couple of weeks ago, and I go around the room and ask everybody what they do, who they work for. I had one student say, I work for so-and-so, and I'm just a sheet metal fabricator. I said, you're not just a sheet metal fabricator. You're an artist.
Yeah.
Because if you can bend and fabricate and make all those different fittings, it's an art.
I was a tin bender back then, too. So my tools were an S-lock and a pair of tongs.
Yeah.
And I
did the hard way.
did fittings. Yeah, I did fittings all the time.
We have to think 5 steps down the road. You're starting here. Where are we going to be after 5? Because you got to pattern it and measure it and getting a 3D
definitely.
output is.
I agree. It is definitely an art, and I couldn't do it. But getting back to crawling in spaces, I used to be skinny, and unlike you, instead of thinking about going to work with a sheet metal guy, I just decided to gain weight to keep me out of crawl spaces. So now
whatever it takes.
I don't do crawl spaces anymore. There's no way. So, Mark, how did you get? If you could walk us through that, how did you get from there to METUS?
Well, it was pretty. It was a linear pattern you could have predicted until I hit a massive discontinuity. So I got to my senior year at Cal Poly, started interviewing. Some companies loved the fact that I'd actually hands-on worked it. So I ended up with a big consulting firm in San Francisco, Glumac and Associates. They designed the Embarcadero Center. They did plumbing, heating, air conditioning, acoustics, electrical, structural. And I got to be the plumbing engineer of record for the Embarcadero Center West project.
That's awesome.
That's a nice project.
I loved what I was doing. I started doing client development, started working with Kaiser Permanente Medical Centers, and we took them on as a client. We were successful enough with that we got to open a satellite office over in Sacramento, which I was part of. And it was a good foundation, understanding, how the stuff works hands-on, then how it gets designed. And then to the astonishment of the rest of my family, I decided I want to figure out how to sell this stuff. I really liked the client development part of engineering. So I saw an ad for Lennox. Lennox was hiring TMs. And my family said, you're the most introverted guy we know. What are you thinking here? I said, I got to prove myself.
There you go.
I became
you go.
Lennox territory manager in Northern California. I was their first graduate engineer to be in their sales team, and had some good success turning some mechanical contractors onto the Lennox product who had never really used it before. Had enough success there that I ended up in the Dallas headquarters running their national accounts department, and in an office nearby to Bill Rao, who was a predecessor of mine in this position. When Bill Rao left Lennox, he came and Ted told me, at any point in your life that you need a job, there's only 2 things you need to do. Write a job description and put your income need at the top. It won't be an interview. It'll just be a done deal. Well, that's a good offer.
Yeah.
Right.
14 years later,
There you go.
I said, hey, Bill, remember me? Remember
Right.
our deal? And that's how I got here.
How
I
about
wrote
that?
my own job description, put my income need at the top. I wanted to work from Chicago out of my basement, and I wanted to serve national accounts and utilities. And it was literally as he said. He introduced me to the other team members and said, "Mark's starting next week. Find an office for him."
Oh, and then from there, you didn't go to CEO right away. You were with us for quite some time, a few years anyway, right?
Yeah, it was. I think over the course of time, I've held jobs in most of the departments of the company. Never finance. I think that's the one I've not had my hands on. But it was funny. There was a period of time in 2014 that I had the craziest title. I was Senior Vice President of Product Strategy, Engineering, Government Affairs, Sales, Marketing, and Operations.
Wow.
Loaded title.
Had that all on one business card.
Yeah.
So it's been, again, my pleasure to actually have done it. I started as a frontline salesperson. My first significant project was designing a VRF Target store. And to have done it and then understand fundamentally what our sales team needs to continue to be able to do their job better and take friction out of the process has been, I think, a key to what I've been able to accomplish here.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
That is awesome. That is just great. So you've been our CEO. How long have you been the CEO?
Well, I was for 7 years.
7 years. I know you're not now, but yeah. So 7 years. So I've been here 14. I think I started here, and Bill Rao was only here a short time after I started. I forget what year that was. 2012, maybe. And we've had a few CEOs since then. So, and as a CEO, I don't know if you want to talk about it, but I remember one story. There was something. You were in Japan, and there was some type of test or contest that put you in a room. Do you recall that? Or am I thinking of something else?
Well, you may be thinking of Dialogue in the Dark.
Yes.
Which was a very it was a mind-boggling thing for me to have participated in. I was not the CEO at the time.
Right.
I was interested, but that would have been an unusual
Of
thing.
course you would be.
For a non-Japanese.
You're a glove for punishment.
That's true too. So I was very honored that Mitsubishi put me into this management training program, which took me to Japan for a couple weeks in 2 separate sections, but lots of work in between times. It was kind of like a Harvard business case study, all in Japan, but really well done with potential senior leaders from around the world. So there was a guy from Australia, guy from Germany, guy from China, and all of us were, looking for opportunities to lead a business. And part of the process was this dialogue in the dark. It was after we'd gotten to know each other pretty well. They took us to this place with little to no explanation, and we got to meet our guide, who was a person who was completely blind, 100% blind.
Wow.
And he said, "I'm going to show you my world. And in a few minutes, we're going to go into a completely darkened space, and you're going to only have my voice to tell you what we're going to do and what you need to do. And you're going to work as a team, and we're going to do a variety of things in there. And you're going to learn how to exist in a world without light." He says, when we're going to start, we're going to put you in a room that's kind of it gets you ready for the total darkness. Okay. So you're going to be in the room. We're going to bring the lights down slowly. And when you've achieved 100% darkness, we're going to proceed on. He says, I got to warn you, there are people for whom that process is very nerve-wracking. And if you feel like this is not going to be the activity that you want to do as we're getting you ready, just let one of our guides know, and we'll take you out, and you'll enjoy something other than this for the rest of the afternoon. And in my mind, I'm thinking, that's crazy. How hard could it be to let the lights go down?
There's the challenge.
Well, we get in the room. It's a little warm. There's several of us in a very small area, and the lights start going down, and I start breaking into a cold sweat, and my heart just starts pounding, and I'm feeling worse and worse.
Oh, Mark.
I'm almost to the point of raising the white flag. When we hit total darkness, the guide said just this one phrase. He said, "Don't worry, follow me." And those words all of my stress levels just
Wow.
eased out of me. I was ready to go. We spent the rest of the afternoon, incredible team building experience. I'd take me all hour to tell you everything we did, but afterwards we had a debrief, and our Japanese teacher of this program wanted to know what we'd learned. And I said, well, what I've learned is communication is key, and you don't need to over prepare for it.
Mm.
And to a Japanese person, that didn't compute. He said, well, I think, Mark-san, I think you meant you need to prepare for it more. I said, no, I already prepare for it too much. I just need to understand the message that he gave us was the ultimate in simplicity. It actually achieved exactly what it needed to do. And as a follower, I need to hear those messages continually. As a leader, I need to be giving them continuously. They don't need to be the perfectly scripted, best spoken. They need to be real, and they need to be continuous. And it's been my goal to achieve that as a communicator.
Yeah, I think it's fascinating. That is a great story. I remember, I don't know how many years ago you told that story, but I never forgot it. And I forgot some of it, but I never forgot thinking, wow, it's just an amazing. And, you know, I probably would have been the one that freaked out. And I know this because when I went to Alcatraz, they put you in the solitary confinement room and they close the door and it's complete darkness. And they do that for like 10 seconds. And that was like way too much for me. I'm done. You know,
it's psychological.
Yeah. Oh, very much so.
Yeah.
Difficult.
Yeah,
That's fascinating.
Yeah. And you've also got some other interesting stories. I love the White House stories.
Yeah.
Right? Do you mind sharing a little bit of that?
That's an experience.
Well, I'll show you what's still my favorite one. It didn't accomplish any policy goals, but I love this one. We were invited, by we, I mean the CEOs of all the major HVAC companies were invited to the White House to meet with the Secretary of Energy to talk about heat pumps. It was just on the heels of the Inflation Reduction Act being signed into law with some significant heat pump incentives. And they wanted to hear from industry how we were going to go about doing this. And AHRI brought us all together for a little pre-meeting beforehand, and then they put us all on a bus, and we transited over to the White House grounds, and we all got in a line to go through security. And there's 3 levels of security to get in, where they check you each time, and there's a kiosk where the guards sit. And each one of these kiosks had a Mitsubishi mini split.
That's
Really?
And at the first one, I heard kind of some mumbling from my fellow CEOs. Second one, somebody calls out, "Hey, Kuntz, how much did you pay for that replacement?" And I said, no, that they paid me for it. Third one, it was just a riot. We started that meeting very well. My interactions with the secretary were ideal. We were an outlier. Everybody else was there to say, you've set the efficiency standards too high. That equipment is too expensive. If you put the efficiency standard back to minimums, we'll sell a lot of heat pumps for you. I took the exact opposite approach.
Good for you.
Energy Star was the limit, the minimum. And I said, we strongly support your standards. In fact, let's make that the nationwide standard. So it was a very productive outcome. But
that's awesome.
Going in, I knew I was on the right path.
Yes, definitely. That's great.
Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah. So you've been around a while. What do you think, is the most significant change you've seen in our industry, whether it's the top change or the top 2 or 3? What do you think since you've been around?
Well, we've seen the absolute surge of heat pumps.
Yeah.
Not just ours, but all forms of heat pump. For the last 3 years now, heat pump sales have exceeded those of furnaces overall. And as people get more comfortable with the fact that heat pumps work in their climate, we're right there pushing that boundary. We're the ones that have made them acceptable north of the Mason-Dixon line. Made them acceptable north of the Portland, Maine line. Yeah. There's more of our heat pumps per capita in Maine than any other state.
Really?
That's a great proof of concept.
Absolutely.
when I was selling for Lennox, you wouldn't have even thought about putting a heat pump, even in California. I mean, maybe in the Silicon Valley, but you get out into the foothills and up into the Sierra, it's not even conceivable unless you just wanted to burn a lot of resistance heat. But we have broken through that barrier. The rest of the industry is obviously following. You see cold climate heat pump versions of other people's equipment.
Right.
Fact is, we've had that for decades now, and it's changing the way people think about everything in the industry. They don't just think about, I got a furnace, I had to replace it with a furnace. It opens up a whole new raft of opportunities, and it's great to be at the leading edge of that.
Yeah, and I think we're going to call this Story Hour because you remind me of another story, the one in Michigan. I think it was in the UP of Michigan.
Yeah, a beautiful low-income housing development. In the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, you talk about cold.
Yeah.
I mean, these guys are negative 10s, 20s Fahrenheit all the time. They had pure electric resistance baseboard, and the renovation brought hyperheat 1-to-1s for each of the tenant spaces, and we did a beautiful case study on it. Every single element, the owner, the property manager, no customer, no tenant complaints. It's the first year I've lived with no tenant complaints. A tenant, this is the first year I've ever been warm. The utility, we can't believe how much less energy this stuff is using. I mean, it was just a win across every aspect. And I shared that story with the Secretary of Energy, who was formerly the governor of Michigan. So it completely resonated with her.
And didn't she correct you on something?
Yeah, the pronunciation of the town, which I couldn't pronounce it today, so I'm not even going to try.
Yeah, well, it's Michigan for you. But who are we speaking to? We were speaking to one of our sales guys yesterday, and their snowfall for this winter it's finished here, but it's not finished there. It was, I think, 360 inches.
360
inches
inches.
for the winter.
That sounds like
Snow.
Minnesota.
Yeah, that's just crazy. And Mark, what are you most proud of now that you've left, you've moved on? We got Andy in charge, who's a wonderful guy. I'm sure he's going to do great. You've worked with him for several years. You look back on your time with METUS. What are you most proud of?
That's a question that spans a lot of concepts, a lot of years, and I could pick probably 5 different things, but I'm gonna go with maybe a more subtle one, and I'm not throwing anybody under the bus, but in 2014, when I realized I had just about every department in the company that I was in charge of, and our company was struggling in 2014. We had way too much inventory. Sales were dropping. We'd burnt through all of our available cash to pay for all this equipment that wasn't being sold. And I had to deduce what's the change that's needed here. I did a lot of thinking on this. And ultimately, I came to the conclusion that our leadership had been operating on the basis of what's in it for me. And our customers were sensing that, our employees were sensing that. And I recognized that that was not going to be my path forward. I needed to demonstrate and model from day one forward, how can I serve you? How can I be a true servant leader? And not just model it, but hire for it, rate people on it, make it part of our culture that we're here to serve. The customer, I don't believe the customer's always right, but the tie goes to the customer.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If there's an issue that's close, the customer's going to win every time.
You need to make them feel like they're always right.
That's right. And that was 2014. 12 years later, I've just gotten an outpouring. I announced the retirement. I got an outpouring of messages from customers, from teammates, from former colleagues. And the recurring theme that people want to convey to me is, you're the most humble leader we've ever known.
Yeah.
And I kind of, I don't even like to say that because it's not humble to be bragging about being humble. And frankly, I don't think many CEOs would actually like that to be their legacy. You're the most humble guy we know. To me, That's the highest compliment.
Mm-hmm.
That's the example I wanted to set and the culture I wanted to set. And I think that's the most significant change that I made.
Yeah, and I think that is awesome because one of the things I hear from everybody here is the culture. And I was talking to Andy, not that he was seeking my advice. He was in the elevator, so he couldn't leave. So I said, Andy, one thing,
trapped.
Yeah, I go, one thing I love here is the culture. Since day one, I've loved the culture here, the people. It's the nicest group of people I've ever worked with. And of course, he said, yeah, that's not going to change. I told him, I didn't tell him, but usually I tell people, every job I've ever had, there's always one jerk in the group. When I started working here, I'm looking for, where's that jerk? I couldn't find him, so I deduced process of elimination that it must be me.
I don't think so.
But it is. I want to say the greatest group of people I've ever worked with. And I worked in the family business, which take that for whatever you will. My family doesn't listen, so
I'm curious, Mark, because we're at the national sales meeting, and this morning we watched Andy Kelso go up on stage as CEO.
Yeah.
How did that feel sitting back in the corner and watching Andy go up there?
That was the greatest team meeting I've ever attended.
I love it.
I started those in 2014, and I've never not been on that stage. It was great to see him.
Yeah.
And when they said, please welcome the CEO for a moment, but no, it's not me. It's not me anymore.
I was thinking, what is Mark thinking right now? Is it bittersweet?
good.
Is it
No,
a little bit of,
it was complete triumph.
Someone else is doing this. This is great.
So there was not an urge to get up there and correct Andy and say, no, you're doing this wrong.
It was not. And I guess I would also say that's one of my proudest achievements
Yes.
too. It's not often that you get to name your successor, especially in a company this size, especially in a company that's owned and managed from Japan. And the fact that we were able to work through their gain of trust and to align the strategy, the culture, the fit, and that he's up there, that's a great legacy.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I think Andy, he was a great COO for us, working with you and under you, and I think he's going to be a great CEO. Andy, if you're listening, I'm just curious, did you give him any advice as you were passing the torch, so to speak?
Yeah, lots of it, but it's between him and me.
Okay, all right. Fair enough. Fair enough.
And you're being humble as we speak, right?
Yeah. So, speaking of advice, our audience is I think it's going to be the technicians, the installers, the service guys, there's salespeople listen to us, territory managers. I know business owners listen to us. What advice would you give the general folks in the industry going forward?
Well, I'll give you the advice I give my sons and continue to give my sons when they tend to forget. And that is, in any environment that you're working, there's something that nobody wants to do. It's the hard job. It's the job that it's going to take some training and forethought to get to. And it's not going to be an easily solved problem or somebody else would have solved it. If you take that on and you make it happen, that can be your career path. You don't need to worry about what's my next promotion, who do I got to smooch to get in there. You don't have to do any of that. You just be the guy that solves the problem that nobody else wants to do, and you can't help but rise. I've told some people I'm downwardly aspirational. I've walked away from jobs a number of times and taken lower level ones just to get stress relief. Right. But that philosophy keeps marching me back up the chain. It's like it's inevitable, and I think it just happened again.
Oh, that's actually some good advice. I'm actually going to steal that and take credit for it and give it to my sons.
Feel free.
Yeah. All right. And so so what's the official? You're retiring? You semi-retiring? Because I know when we talked about this, we weren't on the podcast, but I think you were going to build a pickleball court and an off-road track for your grandkids. Is that still going to happen?
It is. Those are non-negotiables.
Okay.
Yeah. The pickleball court is well underway. I played on it the day before I came here. We still got a few things to do. We're going to put up a little gazebo next to it, maybe some lighting. Once you start on these things, there's no end.
There's always stuff to add.
The other, I would put in an electric mini bike track through the forest. I got to get some mother approval on that, though. That's so far that's
yeah.
I think 9 years old for my grandson. That's perfectly old.
It is.
Yeah, you can get a little mini bike or a 4-wheeler or something.
I think so.
It's all about what you're wearing. Wear the right stuff.
That's right.
I have a 9-year-old
Protective
grandson
gear.
also, and he's not afraid of anything.
My grandson's ready to go.
Yeah.
It's his mother I got to convince. But those are part of my retirement plan. I did fully intend to legitimately retire about a month and a half ago, and circumstances have changed somewhat with Mitsubishi, and a need opened up that I was a pretty good fit to fulfill.
I'd say
Tell us about that. But also, for those folks that don't know, tell us about the hierarchy, like we're METUS and then MEUS and the ACO and all that. If you could kind of explain that and what your role is going to be. And I know you're going to be working with Mike Corbo.
Yeah, METUS is one of several companies that report into Mitsubishi Electric US, MEUS. Mike has been on the METUS board. He's been an advisor to me. He's been actually reported to Mike through my role here as CEO. Mike reports up into an organization in Japan called GSG. It's not the right it's abbreviation, but I think of it as Global Sales Group. Virtually every sales company around the globe, other than in Japan, reports up to GSG. And so every year we've gone and we present our business plan to GSG because they're one of our sets of bosses, and LDG, which is the manufacturing arm of the company. Okay. That's who builds all of our products and owns the factories. Ando-san, who is a former member of our team, is now the president of LDG.
Oh, wow.
Mike, in April, was announced as the president of GSG. And he doesn't live in Japan.
Wow.
He's not going to live in Japan, right. But literally all the sales offices around the globe now report into Mike.
Wow.
And so in a unique conflation of events, two guys that I've spent my whole career with here, all 16 years, Ando was one of the people that interviewed me for the job, are now at the top of their organizations. Wow. And each of them asked me to take on a particular responsibility. If it had been one or the other, I probably would have said, you know what, retirement's still my top priority. When both of them came together, it was a unique opportunity to,
that's awesome.
I think, continue to build resilience for the organization and hopefully do some good in some of the other parts of Mitsubishi that I've never had anything to do with.
I imagine it would be tough to say no to two guys you've known your whole time and you probably respect and admire them, and you think a lot of them, and it's like, how can I say no?
That's exactly right, Paul. And interestingly, it was in Japan when I ultimately said yes, and that was to Ando-san. And we had a dinner. It was already a planned dinner. A lot of our colleagues there. But after dinner, he sends out a shout to the group in Japanese. Everybody stands up, and he grabs me and starts pulling me. This isn't a voluntary situation.
Wow.
He's pulling me into the lobby of this beautiful restaurant we were at. And all of the crowd gathers around me, and he says, just fall back. But okay, well, I guess we're doing a trust fall here. So I fall back, and the crowd picks me up and flings me into the air multiple times with a shout in Japanese.
Wow.
On each flight. Really? And ultimately, I land safe and sound and get high-fived and congratulated by everybody. And I asked Tsunada-san, what just happened? He said, this is called do-age. It's a traditional Japanese ceremony. It was originally conceived up for sumo wrestlers. Now, think about that.
My goodness.
Where you're celebrating victory and you're being purified for the next chapter.
Wow.
That's awesome.
Oh, wow.
So that was my indoctrination into COO of MEUS.
Wow, that is an amazing story.
That is a great story. Now I got to know, what did your wife say? Did she say, "What are you doing?" Or did she say, "Go, get out of the house"?
She had been coming. This wasn't a shock to her.
Okay.
This was an ongoing conversation.
Right.
She had a pretty good sense that I was going to say yes when I went to Japan. So she's very pleased. She's actually with me here at this
excellent.
point. We're empty nesters, so she can travel wherever I go. And probably not to Japan that often, but she enjoys the opportunity in many places we go. We got grandkids down the road here. We got friends elsewhere, and she's on board.
Support us. That's great.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
That's important.
And that's necessary.
That's absolutely yeah. I would not have done it.
You would
without
not be
that.
You would not be happy if she wasn't behind you.
No, not at all.
Mark, I just want to say thank you on behalf of the training team. Anyway, I think you've been a great person to work for. Again, the culture that we have here is a great culture. It's one of those things where I keep getting every so often, every 6 months or so, I get a phone call or an email, and I'm saying, no, we could give you so much more money. Don't care. No, I'm happy. I want to retire from here myself.
Yes.
Someday. I don't know when that will be, but I thank you for that and your legacy that you're leaving with
Absolutely.
us. I wish you luck, and goodbye. And stay in touch. Hopefully we'll be seeing you.
Yeah.
at these other
Farewell
events.
may be more appropriate.
Farewell. Yes.
Farewell makes me feel better. I'm actually on your board.
Yes.
Yes. Well, I don't get invited to those meetings, and I don't want to be either.
Well, it's been a great pleasure to interact with you guys. Thank you for the great work you do for the company. Our training programs are what have brought us to the forefront. If people don't know how to properly size, install, fix, commission, we're nothing, and you've made that happen. So keep up the great work.
No, thank you.
On a lighter note, I would love to hear more about how to make a pizza on the rec deck.
I'm your guy.
Is the dough from scratch? That's what I want to know.
I grind the wheat.
Wow.
Oh my
So
goodness!
he doesn't play around.
Oh my
Yeah.
goodness!
This is we're talking. He used to make mead. That's
You were telling us that you've been in meetings and people Google you and they find the podcast and they found out you had bees and made mead.
All my secrets come out in a forum.
That's awesome. But thanks again, Mark. Thanks for being on the show. Thanks for everything. Best of luck to you.
Wish you the best.